Hello and welcome to another edition of GuideVision Insider, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes here at GuideVision and into the world of ServiceNow. And we've got a wonderful guest today for you, Filip Vacula, Principal Consultant here at GuideVision. And Filip is going to be talking with us about innovation and the ServiceNow platform. So welcome. Thank you for coming out. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Doug, for the invite. I was looking forward really to when will I be invited or will I be invited. I've been watching or listening to the podcasts of my colleagues and found them really inspiring, interesting. So I was really looking forward to this opportunity. Thank you.
Well, thank you. The flattery will get you everywhere.
That's the plan.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to talk with you about innovation because you've been involved in some really interesting projects here at GuideVision, and that actually was something that I've been wondering about as well. Because on one hand, the ServiceNow platform is constantly developing. It's growing so fast, but it would seem almost that for an outside developer or a third-party developer, which is kind of what GuideVision is, then the opportunities for innovation are different or elsewhere. Can you innovate on the ServiceNow platform?
Very good question. You have mentioned the expanding scope, let's say, of the ServiceNow platform, and that is absolutely true. Mm-hmm. When I was joining GuideVision 8 years ago, ServiceNow was more profiling as a software as a service. Then they have moved to a platform as a service, and now they call themselves platform of the platforms, which is really intriguing to me. And it shows you the potential or the path of what ServiceNow is taking. You are right, it's ever growing, ever expanding. So how do you compete, let's say, with ServiceNow? Because they have a huge potential. They have a lot of developers that are, and they know their product very well. So they are the prime example of innovation. However, we, as GuideVision, have the specific focus only on the ServiceNow platform. Mm-hmm. And we have a lot of experience with the customers' projects. We have customers from a wide area of businesses, of their domains. Mm-hmm. And therefore, we can identify the innovations there. So let's take an example. We have a consultant that is with the company for multiple years. So they usually switch projects. They usually rotate because we have identified that's the quickest way for people to grow. And so they are switching the projects, and so they have experience from multiple customers as well as multiple projects. And therefore, when discussing some specific solution for a specific problem or specific business need that the customer is having, they can, let's say, click when thinking about the solution, mm-hmm. and think about, okay, maybe this is a solution not just for this customer, but maybe we can make it into a generic solution. Maybe this will not be interesting just for this specific customer in this specific case, but maybe we can solve multiple cases or the same case for multiple customers. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where innovations can arise from. Mm-hmm. By identifying the same need of multiple customers when we are doing the solutioning. Right. And I think it's easy when doing the solutioning, we as humans try to take the easy way out, right? Try to solve it very quickly. Typically there is time pressure. Customer wants everything. Yesterday was too late, as we say.
Mm-hmm. I'm busy yesterday.
Exactly.
You should try the day before yesterday. I'm less busy.
Yeah, exactly. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
And so under the time pressure, we tend to prefer the easy solutions, the quick solutions. But quite often we would tunnel vision, mm-hmm. and try to just solve it as quickly as possible and then forget about making a generic solution, reusable solution. Mm-hmm. And so when in GuideVision, we try to look at things holistically, try to look at the bigger picture, not just focus on having the solution as quickly as possible, because we see that as a key for continuing relationships with our customers. We typically, our engagement, I don't know the statistics, but I would say the engagements we have with customers are multiple years. So not just one project and finish.
Right.
Typically, we jump from one project to another project to another project, and the teams are typically stable. So one of the key components in that are creating solutions that are not just fit the business needs right now, but would also fit the business needs tomorrow, or they would fit the business needs not just of one business unit, let's say, or one group, but also of a second one that doesn't know now that they have this need, but maybe in the future they will.
Right.
And so having reusable solutions for the customer is one of the key points. And if you can elevate, let's say, this genericity or the reusability to the next level and have it reusable also for other customers, I think that's where really innovations come from. So, yeah.
I saw a quote from a venture capital investor one time who said that, when pitching an idea for investment, he says, always concentrate on the problem. And, that so many startups will talk about their great solution, but what he says is, your solution is not my problem. And so understanding the needs of the user seems like it's a really big part of the puzzle. Right?
Definitely. Yep.
Yeah. And when you're working with one of these customers, you spend a lot of time with them. How do you approach understanding what their needs are?
That's tricky.
Yeah.
I would say it depends. That's the universal answer.
Yeah.
We are making jokes with our colleagues that basically for whatever question you can answer, it depends.
Yeah.
But really we choose individual approach. Typically we would start like, this is the basic business analysis process, let's say. So we would start by reaching out to them, setting up a workshop. If it can be collocated, everyone in the same place, even better. Spend some time together. Typically having whole day reserved for that is better. Understand the business need very well. And the focus on business need is really the key here.
Yeah.
Because typically people, when talking about their needs or what they think are their needs, they would tell you how they imagine the solution. So they have started solutioning in their head and they will tell you, oh, I need this field edit here because it fits my need.
Right.
And you can go like, okay, so we will add the field there. And then customer will not be happy because they imagined they need that, but when they get it, they see, okay, it doesn't suit my need.
Right.
So really identifying the business need is the challenging part. To ask them, so why do you need that? What's the purpose? What will you use the field for? And once you understand really what they need and truly what they need, and from all the different points of view, then only then you can start creating the proper solution. So that's also when doing business analysis, we focus on identifying really the customer needs. And I think I'm not even the first one talking about this on this podcast, because this is really the key in the analysis.
But it's also something that's kind of unique about GuideVision, that the organization really has this balance between understanding the business side and really being good at the technical stuff. So these two things really go hand in hand here, and that's something that I've seen at least in all of the conversations that I've had so far, that it really is a theme that runs through the organization. Now, I was going to ask about reusability, because when you're making something like that, like you're solving a problem, are you thinking right then and there, oh, this is something that I could reuse, or are you thinking maybe later after it's built? How does that come about?
It depends. Well, the sooner you can identify it, the better.
Yeah.
Of course, so we try to put it as soon as possible, because when you start even creating the solution in your mind, you already are somehow limiting yourself. So to incorporate that as soon as possible is typically the best. We try to keep our, let's say, head open, try to see the multiple solutions, not just focus on one, but really consider everything, even like buying some standardized solution that is offered on the ServiceNow store, or something that one of our competitors is promoting, for example, or offering. It can be useful, and that may be the best way. Like, don't reinvent the wheel, right? If it's already solved, we don't need to solve it another time.
And that's a common problem among developers, right? Not invented here syndrome, right? But you guys really look for the solutions wherever they are.
Mm-hmm. And technically, when you talk from the point of view of the developer, we've had some challenges with that because sometimes it's really complex to have some kind of catalog, understand what is already in there, what is offered, what some are the problems that were already solved. And typically in here, we would need some strong architect on the customer side who will be pushing for that, because quite often we are not the only vendor that is providing ServiceNow services to our customer. So there needs to be some alignment between the vendors, and if we can collaborate on this level, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's challenging.
You mentioned the ServiceNow store. I mean, that's something that I didn't know about for a long time, that ServiceNow actually has this resource of all these different pieces of software that are available. Is that something that you turn to a lot when you're working on a project?
We try to.
Yeah.
There's a lot of standardized solutions that are offered there. Quite often they are even for free offered. So why not, as a first step, go there, see if somebody else has solved the same problem or similar thing, and go from there.
Well, that actually brings me to this next thing, because one of the products or the solutions that's in the store is a piece of software that you've been working on called Parcel Go. And maybe you can tell us about that, because it's a really interesting piece of software.
Thank you.
No, I mean, it really solves a very interesting problem.
It's especially during the pandemic, as we have learned. So let me start from the beginning.
Yeah, what is Parcel Go?
Parcel Go, it's our product in GuideVision that we are offering on the ServiceNow store. It's actually the first paid product that we offer through the ServiceNow store. We have another very successful product called SnowMirror. I think when we were talking with Pavel, that was one of the points.
Yeah.
And the other product that we have is Parcel Go, and it adds courier capabilities into the ServiceNow platform. That's like the motto or the headline of that product. What it really does is ServiceNow, you would have processes around procurement, around sending like some inventory, having laptops, for example, it's in some warehouse that, let's say you have a new hire and you need to ship the laptop from the warehouse to the office where he will be starting. So you need to ship somehow. And shipping is not really, or some connection to the courier companies is not included, not part of the ServiceNow platform. And this is what Parcel Go aims to solve. So if you need to send anything and everything, Parcel Go adds that courier capabilities. And again, if you have this need, so you need to send something within a ServiceNow process or within a process that is driven or orchestrated by ServiceNow, you would have two options. You can build it on your own, or you can purchase Parcel Go from the ServiceNow store.
And save a lot of time and effort.
Yeah, we hope.
Faster time to market.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we have the experience. We are building it. There's customers using it. And also, integrations are not fun. Integrations can be complex from the maintenance point of view, because you would build something right now, you would integrate with DHL, let's say, but in half a year, DHL says, okay, we have a new version of the API that you need to integrate with, and the old one will stop working in 2 months. So you have 2 months to migrate. The benefit of the standardized solution, which is Parcel Go, is that we take care of that. You don't need to care about that. Our promise is to have capabilities for the courier companies working within ServiceNow platform. And so whatever changes need to happen, we will make them happen. We will test them with our user base, make sure that everything is in order.
Now, you mentioned the pandemic, because that's really where Parcel Go came into its own, right?
Yes.
But how? How did that happen?
It's really simple if you think about it, because during the pandemic, people started working from home. So even when some businesses or enterprises were not prepared for that, they've had no other choice. And then they have found out that there's a lot of processes that are not ready for that. They are not ready for, let's take the example of the new hire. They are not ready for shipping, for example, the laptop to the home of the new hire. They are used to, they have the process set up, they ship it to the office. So, and that's just one example. There's a lot of processes that were reliant heavily on having people on site at the office. And they needed to digitize, to adjust, to support also working from home. And therefore, that includes a lot of shipping. So let's say when a contract is signed for the new hire or contract with another vendor, typically people would meet and sign the contract at the same place. Now with the pandemic or during the pandemic, let's say we are kind of over it now, luckily.
So far.
But during the pandemic, you would send that, typically the contract or the laptop or the mobile phone or whatever else. So there is a huge need that arises from the pandemic to ship things, to send things as part of running a business. So even if in the past you didn't need to ship anything at all, like your business was not revolving around physical goods, still during the pandemic you need to adjust. And therefore, that's where we saw a big opportunity for Parsogo, because basically every company needs to send something. You think about a bank, you think about a manufacturing company, you think about retail. Everywhere there's a lot of IT, for example, which ServiceNow was built for originally, the ITSM. So shipping IT assets, but also contracts. And we were thinking also to take it to the next level with Parsogo. What are the innovative, because we are talking about innovations, innovative ways to offer this service? And we were thinking, since these enterprises are shipping large amounts of shipments, large amount of parcels, they would have usually favorable rates set up in the contract with the courier companies. So why not make it available, these favorable rates, as a benefit to the employees? So let's say I need to ship something even for personal use. So I would just order with the favorable rates of my employer from DHL and send it like this.
You can do that with Parsogo?
You can do that with Parsogo, yes.
I did not know that. TIL, all right.
Yes.
That's actually pretty cool.
It's interesting and it's innovative. It's thinking about it from a different point of view.
Yeah, it's solving a completely different problem, but coming up with also a completely different benefit.
Yes.
So that actually leads me to the last thing that I was going to ask about Parsogo, which was how did you come up with like the idea originally? Was it a specific customer? Did you have an aha moment? What was that aha moment?
It's actually the same as when we talked about the innovations.
Yeah.
It was the same path.
Yeah.
So we were a customer. They were solving also quite, let's say, unusual use case for us. They are dealing with extremely sensitive data. And they typically work with loaner laptops. So they would loan a laptop for the duration of that engagement with their customer. And then the laptop needs to be returned to some warehouse or some facility where they're physically destroying them. Wow. It's that serious.
Okay.
And so for them, laptops going missing were a huge deal. And not for the monetary value of a laptop, like $1,000, they don't care, let's say they don't care about, but the potential risk of some of the data getting stolen, that was in the millions of dollars, even maybe higher. So for them, the most priority was having the laptop always with them, or at least knowing where it is. So keeping a complete chain of custody throughout the process. They've had the process really well automated, orchestrated on the ServiceNow platform.
Yeah.
So they knew basically from the moment when somebody loans it, somebody writes an image to it, ships it to the office where it will be picked up, then the life cycle, how it's used, and then when it is returned, typically people would leave it at the reception, at the front desk, because it's the easiest for them. They would just drop it off, and then it's the job of the reception to pack it, wrap it up, order the shipment. And then at the other end, at the facility, somebody would check, yes, we have this laptop.
Right.
But they've had this void, they had this information loss in the shipment process. So from getting from the reception to the facility where it would be destroyed, there was empty space where they didn't have information in ServiceNow. And so they asked us, hey, we have this problem, we have this need, can you solve it for us? We could go the easy way, let's say, and do it especially for this use case, set up something. But we are thinking, well, it looks like you need to integrate with courier companies, or they were using the major free courier companies. And we said, well, how about we make this deal? We will make it into our own product. Of course, it will be also favorable to you.
Right.
And we will offer it on the ServiceNow store. And they're like, okay, I like this idea. So that's what we did.
That's really nice.
We implemented it as a standalone application. Then there was, of course, some additional implementation on their side to plug it into their own processes, because how it is offered as a product on the ServiceNow store, it cannot have this specific integration to their specific process. And then we've made it into a box, let's say, a product, packaged product that is offered on the ServiceNow store. So that's how I would say that's one of the innovations, to identify the shared need and create a solution that can be reused and then offer it on the ServiceNow store.
Which actually leads me to the next thing that I was going to ask you about, because you have a background in software development. You studied electrical engineering, or what was it? Software development? What?
It was information systems.
Information systems. So you're coming from a development background, right? And one of the innovations that people have been talking about a lot lately is citizen development. I mean, even here in the organization, there's a lot of talk about citizen development, low code, no code, and these types of solutions. What do you think about citizen development? Because I could see that on one hand you'd be really excited about it, but on the other hand you'd be like super skeptical.
I would say the first reaction of most people would be, oh, it's another buzzword.
Yeah.
Right? Citizen development, yeah, it's cool. Everyone wants it now. Low code, no code. Yeah, but like they have never seen any fruit of that. They have never seen it working. I've had very good experience from a project where we have solved very specific needs with the help of customer development. And as I was studying more about it, like learning more, because I really liked the way we solved that specific issue. As I was learning more about it, reading the articles on the internet, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, oh, it solves this problem, it solves this problem. And so the concept, as I see it, and the huge benefits are, there is a strong push for IT. Like in almost every organization, you cannot avoid IT.
Right.
What I really liked at one of the final exams that I've had at the university was when I was preparing for it, that IT does not anymore give you competitive edge. It's something that you need to survive. You cannot have run business without IT, which is really interesting how this shifted.
Yeah.
And so, so that's one point. You need IT.
Sure.
But also developers are, for a long time, there's not enough developers on the market. So everyone is looking. We are always hiring, for example, in GuideVision. I've been here for 8 years and we have never stopped hiring. So that tells you something.
Yeah.
And citizen development can solve this because it gives the tools, simplified tools, of course, to the hands of the business, to the hands of people who know their problem very, very well.
Yeah.
They know what they are dealing with day to day. And so if typically these would be more, let's say, people more familiar with the technical side of things, so you cannot give these tools to anyone, but that is the goal, I guess. And so they know their problem very well, so they are the best aimed or best equipped to solve it. And if you give them tools that they can use themselves to solve this problem using IT, they would have definitely some innovative solutions that they come up with. And it also solves the problem of that there are not enough people in the technical world, let's say, or you always look for more developers, because then you don't need to look for developers. Then you can just take people who are strong technically from the business and give them these tools to solve their own problems.
Also solves vendor lock-in and a lot of other problems along the way.
Definitely.
Now, you've been talking a little bit generally about citizen development, but you're actually one of the few people who's had direct hands-on involvement. How did that go? What was that like?
Again, it was very interesting. So we've had this small project where it was about fulfilling customer orders. Let's keep it generic. Fulfilling customer orders. And they've had a few services. So they would offer, let's say, 10 services. And all of them had a different fulfillment flow. So all of them needed a different set of tasks to be done in order to fulfill the order. And since the project was very heavily budget limited, we've had very little budget, there was no chance that we could implement all these on our own. Like, we can handle the analysis implementation. And so we were thinking, how can we solve this? Well, we can have one generic solution that will not be so good because you wouldn't have the specifics captured in the flow. You wouldn't be able to orchestrate it. And then we were thinking, there was this emerging technology. It was completely new back then on the ServiceNow platform called Process Automation Designer, where the intention is that you would build, as a developer, build some building blocks and then give these building blocks to the business, to the power users who can use them to define their own process. And I think this was a win-win because then we built these building blocks, gave it to the business, and they were so happy because they can have their own flows for each of the products. Also, they can do it when they have time. They don't need to do it like, okay, now we have the project, so now you have to pay attention to us. Throw your regular tasks to the side and focus on profiling or creating this solution.
Right.
They can do it in their own time, but also the maintainability. Typically, the project ends and then they are on their own. But and the changes typically would need, again, involving the vendor in some change management and implementation project to start again. But in this case, they can even maintain it. So if there is, for example, some automation or there is a change in the way it is fulfilled, they can just implement it on their own. They don't need to wait for anyone.
They don't need you.
They don't need to hire us, exactly.
Yeah.
And they can just do that right away.
And so you're not afraid of like them just solving all this stuff on their own? I mean, is it?
I would love that, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think looking at this from this point of view that like they are taking our jobs or whatever,
Right.
I think
Robots
it's not
are
a good
eating our jobs.
Yeah, I think it's not a good point of view because always you will your position, your job will shift, will change, and it's unavoidable.
Yeah.
It will come one day. So I think the best way to handle this is to adjust, to be prepared for that, and look at it from, okay, what can I do in order to stay competitive in this shifting, changing environment?
Right.
So, for example, I see people more going into the governance side of things, because one of the weak points, let's say, or not weak points, but considerations for citizen development is having some oversight, having some governance over that. Because if you just let anyone to do anything and they can deploy it directly to production environment, it would be a big mess. Therefore, there is a need for governance. And I think people, for example, would be more shifting into these governance roles to actually be the advisor, the expert, from the development point of view, on how to best solve these things or standardize, etc. So I think when one door closes, another one opens.
Sure. So when you're working with a customer, you're also trying to really encourage them to build up their own governance on the platform as well.
Definitely. We see that as a of huge importance. And typically when you would see sometimes customers would have troubles with the ServiceNow instance from the point of view of performance. For example, it's performing badly. It's taking 10 seconds to load some form, for example, or to go forward with some process. Typically, what you would find there as well is lack of governance. So everybody is allowed to do whatever they want. And then from the start, it's not a problem because at the beginning, it doesn't have any impact. Everybody's doing their own. But after a few years, you start seeing these performance issues, for example, or issues that somebody has modified some process in their own way, but it doesn't fit the other teams. And these things, the governance is trying to prevent these things from happening or for them to happen in a controlled manner.
Yeah.
And that's why also governance is quite challenging to sell to customers.
Yeah.
Because they care about now. They quite often don't care about 5 years from now. But in those 5 years, they will be like, oh, why didn't you tell us that we need to set up the governance and now it's a huge mess? So yeah, we try to sell the governance to them. Yeah. And typically this is something that needs to be done on their own. It's best, I think, if the team handling the platform governance is internal customers team. We can, of course, take this role as well, but from the contacts point of view, for example, it's better if it's on the customer side.
To go back to KBC, what was really funny is that they've even sort of adopted it as their own, and they use a name from a TV show here in Czechoslovakia from the 70s. The central brain of humanity that, is what they call their coordinating team. So I mean, they were really able to adopt it on their own, and it seems like that's the best practice. To go for it that way.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And if you look at the example from the KBC, you see also that it's very successful for them.
Yeah.
We are there, I think it's one of our oldest customers actually. So we are collaborating with KBC for like 7 years or something like that for a very, very long time. And if we didn't set up this governance practice in the beginning or in the early stages, then already we would be facing the big issues. So there you can also see how well it works, and it really shows that it works.
You know, I could use some governance in my own personal life. You know, just having a team saying, no, go this way, do this, do that. Right?
That would be great.
Where leads me to my final question for you. Where do you see your own career path developing? How are you going to be moving, advancing?
That's an interesting question. When I was thinking back at my career here, my main motivator is always to be better, to improve. And it doesn't matter in what scenario, improve in what. So I'm always looking for new challenges. For example, right now I'm switching the projects and I'm taking a project where it has people say or people think about it when you mention the name of this project that it's not so easy, it's not so good.
Yeah.
It's one of the most challenging projects that we probably have. And I've decided one day, oh, hey, I want to experience that on my own. So that's where I'm headed now. To improve, and I would say managerial skills really, and dealing with customer skills if it's a challenging environment, to be able to navigate it, not be afraid but not be, let's say, distance myself from the problems. If it's something that I cannot influence, then I shouldn't have a bad feeling about it.
Sure.
Right. And that's also applicable to not business life, but the personal life. So that's where I'm heading right now. That's my next career.
Well, this has all been really, really interesting, Filip. And thank you for coming and spending some time with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Filip Vacula, Principal Consultant here at GuideVision. All the best to you in the new year. And I'm going to be very much looking forward to seeing how these different projects and these innovative things that you're doing are going to continue to develop.
Thank you.
You've been watching and listening to the GuideVision podcast, GuideVision Insider, and stay tuned with us because we're going to be taking you behind the scenes, not only here at GuideVision, but into the world of ServiceNow. My name is Douglas Arianes, and it has been my pleasure to be with you, and I will look forward to seeing you again soon.